Captain Tay stood in the command center of the Atlas station and watched the stars through the massive window. He had done this every morning for 10 years. The view never got old. Beyond the glass, space stretched out in endless black, dotted with distant suns. Ships came and went like fireflies, carrying supplies to every corner of the galaxy. The Atlas was the largest human structure ever built. It floated at the edge of known space, a giant wheel of metal and lights that never stopped spinning. 200 humans lived here, working day and night to keep the galaxy running. They loaded cargo ships, fixed broken equipment, and made sure every alien species in the coalition got what they needed to survive. Tay was proud of his crew. They were good people who worked hard without complaint. The aliens called them the logistics team like it was nothing special. But Tay knew the truth. Without the Atlas, the galaxy would fall apart in weeks. "Captain, incoming message from the Verdani Empire," Lieutenant Hannah said from her station. Her fingers danced across the glowing controls. "It's marked urgent." Tay walked over and looked at the screen. The Verdani were tall, blue-skinned aliens with 4 arms and proud faces. They controlled 15 colony worlds in the Outer Rim. "Put it through." The screen flickered and showed a Verdani commander. His face was tight with fear. "Atlas Station, we need immediate supply support. The Kraith swarm has attacked 3 of our colonies. Our fleet is mobilizing, but we need weapons, ammunition, and medical supplies within 2 days or thousands will die." Tay felt his stomach drop. The Kraith swarm was every species' nightmare. They were insect-like creatures that moved in massive groups, eating everything in their path. Once they started, they didn't stop until nothing was left. "We'll begin loading supply ships immediately," Tay said. "You'll have everything within 36 hours. The Verdani commander nodded, and the screen went dark. "All hands, this is the captain," Tay said into the station-wide communication system. "We have a Priority 1 emergency. The Kraith swarm is attacking Verdani space. I need cargo teams to loading Bay 3. Engineering, prepare for maximum output. We're going to be running hot for the next 2 days." The station came alive. People ran through corridors. Machines hummed louder. Giant cargo containers moved on magnetic rails toward the loading bays. Tay watched his crew work like a perfect machine. This was what humans did best. When everyone else panicked, humans just worked. The first day went smoothly. Supply ships launched every hour, loaded with weapons and food and medicine. The Verdani sent grateful messages. Other alien species in the coalition also started requesting supplies. Their fleets were joining the fight against the swarm. Tay barely slept. He stayed in the command center, drinking coffee and watching the operation. Hannah worked beside him, coordinating with dozens of ships at once. She had been doing this job for 5 years and never made mistakes. On the second day, everything changed. Tay was reviewing supply reports when the lights flickered. It lasted only a second, but it made his heart race. The lights on the Atlas never flickered. "Engineering report," he said quickly. Chief Engineer Wu's voice came through the speaker. He sounded worried. "Captain, we have a problem. The quantum reactor is showing unusual readings. Temperature is rising in the cooling system." Tay ran toward the elevator. "I'm coming down. Keep everyone away from the reactor room." The engineering deck was 5 levels below the command center. When Tay arrived, he found Wu and his team staring at screens filled with red warning symbols. Wu was a short man with gray hair and hands that were always covered in grease. He had kept the Atlas running for 15 years. If Wu looked worried, things were very bad. "Show me," Tay said. Wu pointed at the main screen. "The cooling system has a cascade failure. It started in Sector 7 and it's spreading. If we don't shut down the reactor, the heat will cause an explosion. The blast would destroy the station and everything within 1,000 kilometers." Tay felt cold. "How long to fix it?" 6 weeks minimum. We need to replace the entire cooling grid." "It's old technology, Captain. We've been pushing it too hard for too long. Can we keep running while you repair it?" Wu shook his head. "No, if we keep the reactor running, we have maybe 12 hours before it explodes. We have to shut down everything, now." Tay looked around the engineering bay. His crew was watching him, waiting for orders. Outside, the galaxy was fighting for survival. The coalition needed the Atlas. If they shut down, ships would run out of fuel. Soldiers would run out of ammunition. Colonies would starve, but if they didn't shut down, 200 humans would die. And the explosion would probably destroy any nearby ships too. It wasn't really a choice. Shut it down, Tay said quietly. Begin emergency shutdown procedures. Send messages to all incoming ships to divert to alternate stations. Wu nodded and started giving orders to his team. Tay went back to the command center. His legs felt heavy. Hannah looked up when he entered. She knew something was wrong. Hannah, send a message to Coalition Command. Tell them the Atlas is going offline for emergency repairs. Estimated time is 6 weeks. Her eyes went wide. 6 weeks? Captain, the fleet, I know, Tay said. He sat down in his chair and felt very tired. Send the message. Hannah typed quickly. Her hands shook a little. Within minutes, responses started flooding in. The Verdani commander was first. His message was short and angry. You cannot shut down now. This is desertion. This is betrayal. More messages came. Every alien species in the coalition sent complaints and threats. They called humans cowards. They said humans were sabotaging the war effort. Some demanded that Tay be arrested. Tay read every message. He didn't respond to any of them. Around him, the Atlas began to go dark. Section by section, the lights dimmed. The constant hum of machinery faded to silence. The giant station that had run without stopping for 30 years finally stopped. Through the window, Tay watched the last supply ship depart. Its engines glowed bright blue as it jumped to light speed. Captain, Hannah said softly. What do we do now? Tay didn't answer right away. He was thinking about all the people fighting the swarm. He was thinking about the supplies they wouldn't get. He was thinking about how the galaxy had always depended on humans, but never respected them. Now we fix the station, he finally said. And then we show them what humans really are. The Atlas was dark, but Tay had a feeling that humanity was about to shine brighter than ever. 3 days passed in darkness. The Atlas station floated silent in space like a dead whale. Inside, emergency lights cast red shadows across empty corridors. Chief Engineer Wu and his team worked 20-hour shifts in the reactor room, replacing damaged cooling pipes piece by piece. The work was slow and dangerous. Captain Tay spent most of his time in the command center, watching the galaxy fall apart on the screens. Even with minimal power, they could still receive messages. Hundreds came in every hour. Most were not friendly. The coalition fleet was struggling. Without supplies from the Atlas, ships were running out of everything. The Verdani had lost 2 more colonies to the Crave swarm. Their soldiers fought with half ammunition loads and broken equipment. Medical bays filled with wounded who couldn't be treated properly because supplies hadn't arrived. Lieutenant. Hannah read the messages aloud to Tay. Her voice was flat, tired. The Verdani ambassador gave a speech today. He called humans fragile and unreliable. He said the coalition made a mistake trusting such a weak species with important work. Tay said nothing. He just stared at the screens showing ship positions. Red dots marked coalition vessels. Black dots showed the swarm. The black dots were spreading like an infection. There's more, Hannah continued. The Kelton species is demanding humans pay compensation for the supply disruption. The Drax Union wants all human contracts reviewed. They're saying we can't be trusted anymore. Anything else? Tay asked quietly. Hannah hesitated. Messages from human cargo ships. They're asking if we need help. They want to know what they can do. Tay finally looked at her. How many ships? 47 so far. More every hour. Cargo haulers, mining vessels, colony transports, even some private shuttles. They're all asking the same thing. Before Tay could respond, the door opened. Dr. Bin walked in carrying a medical tablet. He was the oldest person on the Atlas, 62 years old with white hair and kind eyes. He had been a military doctor before retiring to the station. Captain, I need to talk to you, Dr. Bin said. Tay stood up. What is it? I've been monitoring the medical reports from coalition ships. It's bad. Really bad. They're running out of basic supplies. Painkillers, antibiotics, surgical equipment. People are dying from wounds that could easily be treated if they just had the right medicine. I know, Tay said. But we can't help them. The Atlas is down? Dr. Bin smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. The Atlas is down. But we're not down. Captain, every human cargo ship has a medical kit. Every mining vessel carries emergency supplies. Every colony transport has spare equipment. If we coordinate them, if we organize them, they could deliver supplies directly to the coalition fleet. Tay stared at him. Those aren't military ships. They have no weapons, no armor. If they go into a combat zone, the swarm will destroy them. Maybe, Dr. Bin said. But maybe not. Humans are good at improvising. We're good at making do with what we have. And right now, what we have is a lot of civilian ships with crews who want to help. Hannah was looking at Tay with bright eyes. He's right, Captain. We could coordinate them from here. Use our communications array to guide them to where they're needed most. The aliens think humans are just logistics workers. Let's show them what human logistics really means. Tay walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, people were dying. The aliens blamed humans for it. They called humans weak and unreliable. They said humans couldn't be trusted, but humans had never needed trust. They had always just needed a reason to act. Hannah, send a message to every human ship within range, Tay said. Tell them the Atlas is down, but humanity isn't. Tell them we're organizing a civilian supply operation. Anyone who wants to help should report their position and cargo capacity. Hannah's fingers flew across her controls. Message sent. They didn't have to wait long. Within an hour, 70 human ships had responded. Within 3 hours, the number was over 200. Cargo haulers from the mining colonies. Transport ships from agricultural worlds. Even luxury yachts owned by wealthy humans who wanted to do something useful. Tay divided them into groups. Each group had a destination where coalition forces needed supplies most urgently. He assigned routes that would avoid the heaviest swarm activity. It wasn't much, but it was something. The first group launched 6 hours later. 37 cargo ships led by Commander Jin, a retired military officer who now hauled freight for a living. His ship was old and slow, but it was loaded with food, medicine, and spare parts. Tay watched them go on the tracking screen. The ships looked tiny against the vastness of space. They had no military escorts. If the swarm found them, they would die. Godspeed, he whispered. The coalition didn't know what to make of the human civilian ships at first. When Commander Jin's group arrived at the Verdani front lines, the alien commander tried to turn them away. He said civilian ships had no place in a combat zone. He said they would just get in the way. Jin ignored him. He brought his ships right into orbit around the besieged colony and started dropping supply containers. Food, medicine, ammunition, repair equipment. Everything the Verdani needed. The Verdani commander sent angry messages. Jin ignored those too. He was busy coordinating his fleet, making sure every ship delivered its cargo safely. That's when the swarm attacked. Tay was watching the whole thing from the Atlas Command Center. The screen showed swarm ships appearing like dark stains in space. They moved fast, closing in on Jin's civilian fleet from 3 directions. They're not going to make it, Hannah said quietly. Tay gripped the armrest of his chair. He wanted to tell Jin to run, but Jin couldn't hear him. There was too much communication interference from the battle. On the screen, Jin's fleet did something unexpected. Instead of running, they spread out. Each cargo ship positioned itself between the swarm and the coalition forces below. They were using themselves as shields. What is he doing? Dr. Bin asked. Tay understood. He's buying time. If the swarm has to go through his ships first, the coalition gets a few more minutes to evacuate civilians from the colony. One by one, Jin's ships started taking damage. The swarm weapons tore through their thin hulls. But the cargo ships kept broadcasting their positions. kept drawing fire away from the planet. Then something happened that made Tay's breath catch. One of the cargo ships, damaged and venting atmosphere, turned and flew directly at a swarm vessel. The two ships collided. There was a flash of light, and both ships exploded. Did that pilot just ... Hannah couldn't finish the sentence. More human ships did the same thing. They rammed swarm vessels. They used their engines as bombs. They positioned themselves to block swarm weapons fire with their own hulls, the Verdani. Fleet finally understood what was happening. They stopped trying to evacuate and started fighting harder. Knowing the humans had bought them time, when it was over, 19 human ships were destroyed. Commander Jin's ship was still intact, but barely. Tay watched as Coalition rescue vessels pulled human survivors from the wreckage. The command center was silent. Everyone was staring at the screens. "Sir," Hannah said softly, "we're receiving a message from the Verdani commander." "Play it." The Verdani appeared on screen. He looked different than before, quieter, humbler. "Atlas Station, this is Commander Thelm. We didn't understand. The human civilians saved 3 million Verdani lives today. They fought with nothing but cargo ships. They sacrificed themselves without hesitation. I was wrong about your species?" "We all were." Tay didn't respond. He was thinking about the 19 ships that weren't coming back. More human fleets were launching from colonies across the sector. The word was spreading. Where the Atlas stopped, humanity moved. "Captain," Dr. Ben said, "I think we just changed everything." Tay nodded slowly. The galaxy had always seen humans as useful workers. Now they would see something different. Now they would see what humans really were when pushed to the edge. Now they would see legends being born. Pilot Una checked her instruments for the 5th time in 10 minutes. Everything looked normal, but normal didn't mean safe. Her ship was a medical transport called the Mercy Run, designed to carry wounded soldiers and sick civilians. It had basic shields and no weapons at all. Flying it into a war zone was probably the stupidest thing she had ever done, but she was doing it anyway. "Mercy Run, this is Atlas Station," Lieutenant Hannah's voice came through the speaker. "You're approaching the Kelton battle group. Heavy swarm activity in that sector. Are you sure about this?" Una smiled even though no one could see her. "I'm sure." "Sending approach vector now?" She had been a civilian pilot for 8 years, mostly running medical supplies between colonies. Boring work, but good pay. When the call came out for volunteers, she didn't think twice. People were dying out there. She had a ship and medical training. That was enough. The battle zone appeared on her sensors. Dozens of ships, both coalition and swarm, twisted and fought in the darkness. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers. Una felt her hands get sweaty on the controls. "Mercy Run, this is Kelton Defense Commander. You are ordered to leave this sector immediately. Civilian vessels are not authorized for combat operations." Una switched on her communication system. "Kelton Defense, I'm not here to fight. I'm here to evacuate your wounded. My ship has medical facilities for 200 patients. I can see from here that your medical frigate is heavily damaged. Let me help." There was silence. "Then you're insane. The swarm will destroy you in minutes. And then I better work fast," Una said. She pushed her ship forward. The Kelton were tall, thin aliens with silver skin and large black eyes. They were peaceful by nature and their military was small. Right now, their ships were getting destroyed. Una could see one of their cruisers venting atmosphere, listing badly. The medical frigate next to it was on fire. Una brought the Mercy Run alongside the damaged cruiser. "This is Mercy Run requesting emergency docking permission. I'm ready to receive wounded." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the cruiser's docking bay doors slowly opened. Una worked fast. The wounded Kelton were carried aboard by their own medical teams. Burns, broken limbs, radiation poisoning. Una and her small crew of 3 other humans moved between patients, giving injections, wrapping wounds, stabilizing the worst cases. The Kelton medical staff watched in surprise. Humans worked differently than they did, faster, more efficient. less concerned with proper procedure and more concerned with keeping people alive. "We have 130 wounded aboard," Yuna's assistant Minho called out. "That's past safe capacity." "Get more," Yuna said. "We're not leaving anyone." They loaded 247 wounded. The ship groaned with the weight. Yuna's shields were down to minimal power to compensate. But everyone was aboard. "Mercy run! Swarm fighters incoming!" The Kelton commander's voice was urgent. 4 contacts closing fast. Yuna looked at her sensors. 4 small ships, probably swarm scouts. Her transport couldn't outrun them. She couldn't fight them. All she could do was try to shield her patients. "Everyone strap in," she said calmly. "This might get rough." The swarm ships opened fire. The first hits shook the Mercy Run hard. Alarms screamed. A second volley hit the engine section. Yuna felt the ship shudder and start to spin. They were going to die. All of them. The wounded Kelton, her crew, herself. She had failed, then something unexpected happened. 3 human cargo ships appeared from nowhere and positioned themselves between the Mercy Run and the swarm attackers. They were mining vessels, big and slow, with industrial cutting lasers mounted on their hulls. "Mercy Run, this is mining ship Steel Hammer. We got you. Get those wounded to safety." The mining ships attacked. Their lasers weren't designed for combat, but they were powerful enough to cut through asteroids. Against swarm scout ships, they worked just fine. The industrial lasers sliced through enemy hulls like paper. 2 swarm ships exploded. The other 2 tried to run. One of the mining vessels rammed it. Both ships went up in a ball of fire. "Steel Hammer!" Yuna screamed into her com. "Got it on the escape pod," a voice responded. "Now get out of here." Yuna pushed her damaged ship away from the battle. She could barely keep it steady. The engine was failing. But she kept going, kept pushing, kept her 247 patients breathing. She made it to a coalition medical station an hour later. As the wounded were unloaded, the Kelton commander sent her a message. "Human pilot Yuna, you saved lives today that we thought were lost. Your name will be remembered." But Yuna wasn't done. As soon as her ship was minimally repaired, she went back. Her second run was to a Verdani destroyer that had taken heavy damage. She evacuated 300 wounded, pushing her ship far past its limits. Her third run was to pick up survivors from a destroyed coalition transport. Her fourth run almost killed her. She was approaching a damaged cruiser when swarm command ships appeared. Not scouts this time. Full battleships. 6 of them, massive and deadly. "Mercy Run, retreat immediately!" The cruiser captain was shouting. "Those are capital ships. You can't survive this." Yuna looked at her sensors. The cruiser below her had 800 crew aboard. Most were wounded. If she left, they would all die when the swarm destroyed the ship. "Negative," she said. "I'm not leaving them." She flew her medical transport directly at the nearest swarm command ship. It was a crazy plan. A stupid plan. But maybe, just maybe, the swarm would focus on her long enough for the cruiser to escape. The swarm command ship turned its weapons on her. Yuna's shields collapsed instantly. Hull breaches opened across her ship. Patients screamed. Her crew shouted warnings. Emergency systems blared. "Minho, get everyone to the escape pods," Yuna said quietly. "That's an order. What about you?" "I'm staying." "Someone has to keep the ship flying long enough for you all to escape. Now go." Minho and the others moved fast, helping patients into the escape pods. Yuna stayed at the controls, pushing her dying ship forward. The swarm vessel was so close now she could see its ugly black hull through her cracked window. She thought about her family back home. She thought about all the people she had saved today. She thought about how the aliens used to call humans weak. "Not so weak now," she whispered. She pushed the ship's reactor into overload. The core temperature climbed. Red warnings filled every screen. The swarm command ship was right in front of her now, so close she could see its weapons ports opening. "For humanity," Yuna said. She closed her eyes. The reactor exploded. The blast was enormous, consuming both ships in white fire. The shockwave knocked the damaged cruiser away, but gave it enough distance to jump to safety. The swarm command ship shattered into 1,000 pieces. When the light faded, there was nothing left but debris in the wreckage. A Verdani rescue team found something impossible. An escape pod with the name Mercy Run painted on its side. Inside, burned and barely breathing but alive, was pilot Yuna. She had set the reactor to explode, then at the last second ejected herself in a maintenance pod. She woke up 2 days later in a Coalition medical station. The first thing she saw was her crew standing around her bed. Minho was crying. A Verdani doctor was checking her vital signs with all 4 arms moving at once. "You're alive," Minho said, laughing and crying at the same time. "You crazy, wonderful human. You're alive? The wounded?" Yuna asked, her voice hoarse. "All safe. Every single one. You saved them all." Across the Coalition fleet, word spread fast. A human pilot in a medical transport had flown directly at a swarm command ship and destroyed it. She had saved 800 lives. The aliens started calling her the Relentless Angel. But Yuna wasn't special. She was just one human among thousands who were doing the impossible. Cargo haulers were ramming swarm vessels. Mining ships were using industrial equipment as weapons. Colony transports were dropping shields to power Coalition ships. The galaxy was learning a new lesson. Humans didn't calculate acceptable losses. Humans didn't abandon anyone. Humans fought like logistics was warfare, and they refused to stop until everyone was safe. The boldest warriors in the galaxy were starting to feel something they had never felt before when they thought about humans. They were starting to feel afraid. Chief Engineer Wu hadn't slept in 43 hours. His eyes burned and his hands shook from too much coffee, but he kept working. Around him, his engineering team looked like ghosts, pale and exhausted, moving through the reactor room like sleepwalkers. "Technician Sue, how's the cooling grid in Sector 12? Wu asked as Sue looked up from her workstation. She had dark circles under her eyes that made her look 10 years older. "Almost done. Another 3 hours and we can test it." "Good, keep going." The repairs were going faster than expected. What should have taken 6 weeks was now looking more like 8 days. But that was because Wu and his team were working themselves to death. They ate at their stations. They slept in shifts of 3 hours. Some didn't sleep at all. Captain Tay came down to the engineering deck every day. He brought food and tried to make them rest. But everyone knew why they were pushing so hard. Every hour the Atlas stayed dark, more humans were dying on the front lines. More were sacrificing themselves in cargo ships and mining vessels, covering for what the station couldn't do. "Captain," Wu said when Tay arrived that afternoon, "we're close. Really close. Maybe 2 more days." Tay looked around at the exhausted crew. "At what cost?" "Sue collapsed yesterday. 3 others are in medical bay. You're going to kill yourselves." "Better us than them," Wu said quietly. He pointed at a screen showing battle reports. "Commander Jin's fleet lost 15 more ships yesterday. A colony transport called Heart of Home rammed a swarm carrier to protect a refugee convoy. All 73 crew died." "Those people are out there dying because we're down here. So yeah, we're going to keep working." Tay wanted to argue, but he couldn't. He felt the same way. Every human did. On the 6th day, Technician Sue finished the cooling grid in Sector 12 and immediately started on Sector 13. She worked for 19 straight hours before she collapsed at her station. The medical team carried her away. 6 hours later, she was back, against doctor's orders, with bandages on her hands where she had burned them on hot pipes. "You should be in bed," Wu told her. "People are dying," Sue said. "I can sleep when we're done." On the 7th day, they reached the final phase. All cooling systems were repaired and installed. Now they just needed to test everything and restart the reactor. It was the most dangerous part. If something went wrong, the reactor could still explode. Captain Tay stood in the reactor room with Wu and his team. "Everyone who doesn't need to be here should evacuate to the outer sections. If this goes bad, I want as few casualties as possible. Nobody moved. That's an order, Tay said firmly. Still nobody moved. A young engineer named Day spoke up. With respect, Captain, we're all staying. We built this together. If it fails, we fail together. If it works, we all see it happen. Tay looked at their faces. He saw determination, exhaustion, and pride. These were the people who kept the galaxy running. These were the people the aliens called weak. Fine, he said. Let's wake up the Atlas. Wu moved to the main control panel. His fingers, usually so steady, trembled slightly as he entered commands. Initiating reactor restart sequence. Starting power flow to core in 3 ... when the reactor hummed. It was a low sound at first, barely audible. Then it grew louder. The lights in the reactor room flickered, then brightened. Control panels that had been dark for 8 days suddenly glowed with life. Temperature rising, Sue called out, watching her screen. Steady at 30%. 40%. Still steady. The hum became a roar. The whole station vibrated. Tay felt it in his bones. 60%. Cooling system engaging. Temperature stable? 80%. All readings normal. Captain, it's working. The lights throughout the Atlas station blazed back to life. Machinery that had been silent roared back to operation. The manufacturing bays, the cargo systems, the supply chain networks. Everything came online at once. In the command center. Lieutenant Hannah watched her screens light up one by one. Captain, all systems are operational. The Atlas is back online. We're back, sir. We're back. But Tay wasn't celebrating yet. He walked to a different control panel and pulled up a new set of designs. Blueprints for something the aliens had never seen before. Chief Wu, I need you to see this, Tay said. These are weapon systems. Combat armor. Battle frames. We've been developing them in secret for 3 years, just in case we ever needed them. I think now is that time. Wu studied the designs. His tired eyes went wide. Captain, these are military-grade combat systems. We're logistics experts, Tay said, which means we know exactly how wars are won and lost. We know what works and what doesn't. These designs are specifically engineered to fight the Kraith swarm, and we're going to build them, now. Word spread through the station fast. The Atlas wasn't just restarting its normal operations. It was going to war. The manufacturing bays retooled. Instead of producing supply containers and food packages, they started building something new, Atlas battle frames. 10 feet tall, armored with human-designed plating that could withstand swarm weapons. Armed with weapons designed specifically to counter swarm tactics. Each frame was piloted by one human, connected directly to the machine's systems through a neural link. The first frame rolled off the production line 18 hours after the reactor restart. It was painted dark gray with red markings. Across its chest, someone had painted a name. YUNA. More frames followed. Each one bore the name of a human who had died in the civilian supply operations. Jin. Steel. Hemmer. Heart of home. Every sacrifice remembered. Every life honored. Pilot Han was chosen to lead the first frame squadron. He was a former military pilot who had been working as a cargo hauler. When he saw the frame with Yuna's name on it, he asked to pilot that one specifically. She was my friend, Han said to Captain Tay. We trained together in the military academy. When I heard she survived that explosion, I couldn't believe it. Now I want to make sure her sacrifice meant something. I want to finish what she started. Tay put a hand on Han's shoulder. Then go finish it. Take these frames and show the swarm what happens when they threaten humanity's friends. 36 Atlas battle frames launched from the station. They flew in formation, heading toward the heaviest swarm concentrations. Coalition forces watched in confusion as the strange new machines approached. Unidentified vessels, identify yourselves, a Verdani commander transmitted. This is Atlas Squadron 1, Han responded. We're here to end this war. The frames entered combat like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. They moved like dancers, fast and fluid despite their size. Their weapons tore through swarm ships with devastating efficiency. Each pilot fought with the same reckless determination that the cargo haulers and mining ships had shown, but now they had the tools to back it up. Hans Frame, bearing Yuna's name, led the charge. He flew directly into a cluster of swarm fighters and tore them apart with precision fire. Every shot counted. Every movement mattered. He fought like someone who had something to prove. The coalition forces rallied. With the Atlas battle frames leading the charge and supplies flowing again from the station, the tide finally turned. The swarm, for the first time in the war, began to retreat on the Atlas. Captain Tay watched the battle reports with Dr. Bin and Lieutenant Hannah. The casualty numbers were still high, but they were falling. The swarm was being pushed back. "We did it," Hannah said quietly. "The Atlas is back and we're winning." Tay nodded, but he didn't smile. He was thinking about all the humans who had died to buy them these 8 days. He was thinking about the galaxy that had called them weak. "Winning is good," Tay said, "but we're going to do more than win. We're going to make sure the galaxy never forgets what humanity really is. We're going to make sure they understand that when humans stop being the foundation, they become the storm." The Atlas hummed with power around them. The galaxy's most essential station was awake again. But now it was something more than a logistics hub. Now it was a promise. A warning. A legend in the making, and the boldest warriors in the galaxy were finally starting to understand that humans had never been weak. They had just been holding back. The war ended on a Tuesday. 3 weeks after the Atlas came back online. The Crave swarm retreated beyond the galactic rim. They left behind destroyed colonies, ruined ships, and millions of dead. But they were gone. The coalition had won. The cost was brutal. 12 colony worlds lost. 400 coalition warships destroyed. 2 million soldiers dead. And among those dead were 7,000 humans. Most of them civilians who had flown cargo ships into battle zones, knowing they probably wouldn't come back. Captain Tay stood in the Atlas Memorial Hall and looked at the wall of names. 7,000 names, carved into black stone. Commander Jin, the crew of Heart of Home, the pilots of Steel Hammer. So many others. Each name represented someone who had chosen to help when the galaxy needed it most. Near the bottom of the list was a name that had been added and then crossed out. Yuna. She had survived. Against all odds, she was alive and recovering in a coalition medical facility. But her name stayed on the wall anyway, as a reminder of what she had been willing to do. "Captain, the Coalition Council is requesting your presence," Lieutenant Hannah said from the doorway. She looked nervous. "They want to speak with you." "In person?" Tay turned away from the wall. "When?" "Now, they've sent a diplomatic ship to transport you to the council chambers." "Sir, I think this might be about what happened. The civilian operations. The Atlas shut down. There might be consequences." Tay smiled sadly. "I'm sure there will be. Tell them I'll be ready in an hour." The Coalition Council chamber was a massive circular room with seats for representatives from all member species. Tay had never been here before. Humans weren't important enough in the Coalition to be invited to council meetings. They were just the logistics team. When Tay entered, every alien in the room turned to look at him. The Verdani, tall and blue. The Kelton, thin and silver. The Drax, heavy and armored. Dozens of species, all staring at one human in a simple uniform, Ambassador Thelm. The Verdani, who had called humans weak and unreliable, stood up. Tay recognized him from the video messages during the war. The alien's face was unreadable. "Captain Tay of the Atlas Station," Thelm said formally. "You stand before the Coalition Council to answer for your actions during the recent crisis." Here it comes, Tay thought. The blame. The punishment. He stood straight and waited. Then Thelm did something that shocked everyone in the room. He dropped to his knees, all 4 arms spread wide in a gesture of submission. "I kneel before you," Thelm said, his voice breaking. "I kneel before humanity. I spoke words of hatred and prejudice. I called your species weak when you were preparing to be strong. I called you unreliable when you were proving to be the most reliable of all. I blamed you for a necessary choice that saved millions of lives. I was wrong. I was blind. I ask on behalf of the Verdani Empire for your forgiveness." The chamber was silent. Tay stared at the kneeling alien, not sure what to say. Other representatives began standing. One by one, they came forward. The Kelton representative bowed deeply. The Drax touched their chest in a sign of respect. Representatives from 20 different species offered apologies and gratitude. "Humanity saved us," a Kelton commander said. "Not with military might, though you proved you have that too. You saved us by refusing to calculate acceptable losses, by refusing to abandon anyone, by turning your civilian population into an army of saviors." The council leader, an ancient being called a crystalline, spoke in a voice like wind chimes. "The Coalition Council votes now on a proposal that humanity be elevated from associate member to full member with a seat on the High Command. That Captain Tay be offered the position of Fleet Admiral of Coalition Defense Forces." All in favor. Every representative raised their hand or arm or tentacle or whatever appendage they used for voting. It was unanimous. Tay felt overwhelmed. Fleet Admiral? High Command? These were positions of incredible power and responsibility. He thought about his crew on the Atlas, working every day to keep the galaxy running. He thought about the 7,000 names on the memorial wall. "I'm honored," Tay said carefully, "but I must decline the position of Fleet Admiral." The chamber erupted in surprised whispers. "I'm needed on the Atlas," Tay continued. "My crew and I, we have work to do. But I will accept humanity's seat on the High Command on one condition: that this council never forgets what happened here. That you never forget the 7,000 humans who died because they couldn't stand by and watch others suffer. That you never forget what humans are truly capable of when given the chance to help." The crystalline leader tilted its head, light refracting through its body. "We will never forget. A proposal that the Atlas be recognized as a sovereign territory under human command. That no coalition authority can override the captain's decisions regarding station operations. That humanity be granted full autonomy in all logistics operations across coalition space." Another unanimous vote. Tay returned to the Atlas 3 days later. When his shuttle docked, his entire crew was waiting in the hangar bay. They cheered when he appeared. Someone had made a banner that read, "Welcome home, boss." Hannah ran up and hugged him, which was very unprofessional, but Tay didn't care. "You turned down Fleet Admiral. Everyone's talking about it. Some species are calling it the most human thing ever done, refusing power to keep doing the work you love." "How are repairs going on the station?" Tay asked. "We're rebuilding. Expanding, actually. The council approved a massive construction project. We're adding new manufacturing bays, medical facilities, and defensive systems. The Atlas is going to be more than a logistics hub. It's going to be a fortress." A statement. Dr. Ben joined them, looking pleased. "And we have a visitor waiting in Medical Bay 4. Someone who wanted to thank you personally." Tay followed him to the medical bay. In a recovery room, sitting up in bed with bandages still covering her arms, was Pilot Yuna. She looked thin and tired, but her eyes were bright. "Captain," she said, trying to salute. "Don't," Tay said quickly. "You're recovering. How are you feeling?" "Like I got blown up," Yuna said with a weak laugh. "But alive. Which is more than I expected. Sir, I heard what you did at the council. Turning down Fleet Admiral. Staying with the Atlas. It means a lot to us. To all of us." "This is where I belong," Tay said. "This is where we all belong. The Atlas isn't just a station. It's proof of what humans can build. What humans can do." Over the next months, the galaxy changed. Human logistics operations expanded across coalition space. More stations were built, all modeled on the Atlas. Human pilots, engineers, and medical staff became the backbone of the coalition's recovery efforts. But something else changed, too. The way aliens looked at humans. The way they spoke about humanity. No longer just useful workers. No longer just logistics teams. Now they were the species that held the line when everything else broke. The species that calculated the cost and paid it anyway. The species that, when their greatest achievement stopped working, became legends instead. The phrase spread across the galaxy, spoken in 100 languages. When the Atlas stopped, we learned what humans truly are. Captain Tay stood in the command center one evening, watching the endless flow of ships through the Atlas traffic patterns. Supply vessels, cargo haulers, military transports, civilian ships, all moving in perfect coordination, guided by human logistics. Chief Engineer Wu joined him at the window. You know what the aliens are saying now? They're saying the scariest thing in the galaxy isn't the swarm, isn't black holes or gamma ray bursts. It's a human who's decided someone needs help. Tay smiled. That's because humans understand something the rest of the galaxy is just learning. Real strength isn't about weapons or military power. Real strength is about who you choose to help and how far you're willing to go to help them. Do you think they'll ever truly understand us? Wu asked. Maybe, maybe not. But they'll respect us. They'll know that humanity doesn't just survive. We make sure everyone else survives too. And we'll do whatever it takes, pay whatever price, sacrifice whatever is necessary to make that happen. Hannah's voice came through the comm system. Captain, we're receiving supply requests from 17 different species. Priority shipments needed within the next cycle. It's going to be a busy week. Tay activated his comm. Acknowledge. All sections prepare for maximum operational capacity. Let's show them what the Atlas can do. The station hummed around him, alive with purpose. 200 humans working to keep the galaxy running. It wasn't glamorous work. It wasn't the kind of thing that songs were written about, usually. But it was necessary. It was vital. It was what humanity did best. The memorial wall had taught them something important. Every one of those 7,000 names represented someone who understood a simple truth. That the greatest power wasn't the ability to destroy enemies, but the ability to save friends. And now the boldest warriors in the galaxy understood something they had never understood before. They understood that humans were something more dangerous than any weapon, more powerful than any military force. Humans were the species that would move heaven and earth to protect the people they cared about. The Atlas had stopped once. It would never stop again. And as long as humans were running it, as long as humans were coordinating the logistics of survival and hope across the stars, the galaxy would keep turning.